What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us for LTMB Live. This is a special edition, a Wednesday edition, and it's because of the Democratic debates this week. We did not want to wait until Thursday to discuss both debates, so got a special edition of LTMB Live.
I don't think we've ever done a Wednesday show before.
I don't think we have done a Wednesday show.
Did our first Friday show after the first round of debates.
That's true.
But went pretty well.
Yeah, it went pretty well. Though we're going to try to get right into it because there's another debate coming tonight, 8 o'clock. We have a bunch of clips that we want to show and discuss. So, we thank everybody for joining us. There's not going to be any calls for this show at the end of the night as well because we are going to be pressed for time. But we definitely did want to, get to these issues, some of these discussions that were raised last night and, converse about them.
I didn't think there were going to be any dust-ups.
I didn't think so either.
I don't think there were like major dust-ups, but there were some fireworks.
There were.
There was some people taking some L's.
Yeah, there were.
Particularly John Delaney.
There were a few people taking some L's. Okay, so let's get right into it. The candidates, of course, CNN did things a little bit differently than MSNBC. On MSNBC, I believe they got right to the debate and they just started asking questions to the candidates. CNN did it differently in which they did the presentation of colors, the flags,
I don't remember them doing that.
No.
The last debate?
No. MSNBC did not do that.
And they had also the national anthem?
Yes, CNN had the national anthem as well. I made the remark last night too. Then that kind of rules me out from being
I was about to say,
candidate for office.
Yeah. If you were ever to run, the headlines would be, you'd be blasted in the headlines.
Yeah, and there was one candidate.
Will Gaillard hates America.
There was one candidate that was criticized because he didn't have his hand over his heart. That was Tim Ryan, I believe.
Yeah.
And we didn't
notice it at the beginning. I thought it may have been like a snapshot, and maybe he was just late,
possibly
late in raising his hand, or maybe I just didn't notice it because there's 10 candidates, and if 9 of them are doing it, maybe it just kind of he blends in. So
maybe he did it before and took it.
Maybe
down.
he took it down.
Yeah. I didn't look into it.
Maybe he was late, so I was like, doesn't really matter to me.
But anyway, so
he's just whack as a candidate.
Yeah. But on CNN, the candidates had opening statements, and again, that was something that was different from MSNBC. They didn't get a chance to do that. So I thought one of the candidates, Senator Elizabeth Warren, she had a pretty good opening statement. Bernie Sanders did as well, but we're going to show Senator Elizabeth Warren's opening statement.
Donald Trump disgraces the office of president every single day. And anyone on this stage tonight or tomorrow night would be a far better president. I promise no matter who our candidate is, I will work my heart out to beat Donald Trump and to elect a Democratic Congress. But our problems didn't start with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is part of a corrupt, rigged system that has helped the wealthy and the well-connected and kicked dirt in the faces of everyone else. We're not going to solve the urgent problems that we face with small ideas and spinelessness. We're going to solve them by being the Democratic Party of big structural change.
I thought that was a pretty good opening statement because she made it about more than Trump, which a lot of people make it just about Trump. We've noted that before on candidates' websites where it's like, resist Trump, beat Trump. And it's not about Trump. It's about what Trump represents. It's about that Republican agenda. He's the only thing different that he's bringing to the table is his style,
and his
but
rhetoric.
The agenda is the same.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that she made it more, more about what the Republicans in general want to
Trump
accomplish.
is just like he's performing.
Yeah.
So most of what's different about Trump is very performative. And so, yeah, I tend to back away from those beat Trump.
Yeah.
Get Trump out of office at all costs type of talking points.
Right.
If you're going to issue that kind of talking point as a candidate, you have to connect it to a bigger picture, like Warren did there.
Yeah.
Like, could connect him to the corruption that we talk about on this show all the time.
Right. And she did that. So in the opening statements, though, it didn't take long. It didn't take long for the centrist to have a target. And it began right away. So there were two main ones that decided to attack the progressives that were on the stage. And so we have clips of those.
Folks, we have a choice. We can go down the road that Senator Sanders and Senator Warren want to take us with bad policies like Medicare for all, free everything, and impossible promises that'll turn off independent voters and get Trump reelected. That's what happened with McGovern. That's what happened with Mondale. That's what happened with Dukakis. Or we can nominate someone with new ideas to create universal health care for every American with choice. Someone who wants to unify our country and grow the economy and create jobs everywhere. And then we win the White House.
Last year, Democrats flipped 40 Republican seats in the House, and not one of those 40 Democrats supported the policies of our frontrunners at center stage. Now, I share their progressive values, but I'm a little more pragmatic.
That's interesting. After all that good stuff that Delaney said he was going to do and implement, he says, then we're going to win the White House. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
He's going to do all that stuff and then win the White House?
Yeah,
I don't get it. But the way Hickenlooper and Delaney sound, it's like 2016 didn't happen.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because they're trying to present this case that Bernie Sanders, too extreme. You can't beat Trump with that stuff. You can't beat Trump with that extreme stuff. This pie in the sky policy.
Right.
You got to be more pragmatic. You got to put forth policy that's going to get things done. Get things done. But a centrist lost to Donald Trump in 2016.
Yeah, so we've been there, we've done that.
Yeah, so I don't know how
the last election.
Exactly. So I don't know how they can say that, Bernie's platform can't beat Trump.
Like, it hasn't been tested.
Because essentially that's what they mention all the time. This won't beat Trump. That won't beat Trump. But a centrist lost to Trump. So
this is the political, let's run it back.
Let's run it back.
Let's run it back.
Let's
man.
run it back.
One
man.
more time, man. We didn't learn a damn thing from 2016. Let's run it back with another centrist. But this time we'll win because I guess they understand that they lost in middle America. They lost. They lost Ohio. They lost Michigan. They lost what they lose Wisconsin as well. So I guess if we focus on them while having the same policies, actually the same strategy, but just focus on those states, and then everything will be good.
That's why it's kind of not just problematic, but stupid. It's stupid to dumb. Shit on like progressive policies.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So you can't point to progressives and say you can't win an election, you can't beat Trump, when centrist policies could not beat Trump.
Right. It's ridiculous. Now, the other way around, we can say, progressives can say, that didn't work. But you can't turn around and say the same thing about progressives because you shat on progressives during the whole primary season and you didn't want them to face Trump. You didn't want Bernie Sanders policies to face Trump, even though they were very popular.
But, it's interesting. Like, we've had kind of a litmus test, you might want to say. We've kind of had a test run on progressive policies during the midterms. And guess what happened?
A lot of them won.
A lot of them won.
Yeah.
I can't remember whether it was this debate or whether it was post-debate commentary where someone said that more of the moderate candidates won. That was after the debate, I think. That was post-debate commentary. Was that post-debate commentary?
Hickenlooper made the comment.
Did he
and I think he's going to, in one of the clips that we have, I think he's going to make the comment. I believe so. But okay, let's keep going. So the very first issue that the candidates discussed was healthcare. Of course, I believe it was the same way in the first debate on MSNBC as well. So Jake Tapper is the one that asked the question. And the first question goes to Bernie Sanders, I believe. Yeah. You know what? I don't even know that I have, I think I don't even think I have that one here.
It made sense for the debate to start off with Medicare for all.
Yeah,
they had Bernie center stage.
Yeah.
Understandably, he would be considered the front runner out of that pool of candidates. So they had him center stage. So and Medicare for all is a hot topic. So I'm actually fine with them starting with that topic and centering the conversation on Bernie Sanders, because he wrote the bill.
Yeah. I don't think I have that. But the way Jake Tapper asked the question was very disingenuous. And we're going to get into more of, what it seemed like CNN was trying to do. But first, we can get to another centrist, and this is Governor Steve Bullock of Montana, and what he had to say about, I guess, the positions of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren as well.
This is an example of wish list economics. It used to be just Republicans who wanted to repeal and replace. Now many Democrats do as well. We can get there with a public option, negotiating drug prices, ending.
Thank you, Governor Bullock.
So that sounds like Republican.
That sounds just like a Republican talking point. I don't recall Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders using any language that resembles the word repeal.
No. It's not a repeal because, you see, when Republicans talk about repealing and replace, they want to get rid of Obamacare. They want to get rid of the ACA immediately and not replace it with anything. The replacement comes after. Sometime down the road, they'll come up with a plan. It's very obscure. We have no idea what it'll look like. We have no idea what it will be. But it will be a great replacement. That's their language. That's Trump's language. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, you could include her in this conversation. But the plan for Medicare for all is not the same thing as a repeal and replace. Now, we do want to replace the ACA with something better. And I don't think anybody should be scared of that because we still have millions of Americans that are not covered by insurance or are underinsured. That's still a reality. So to get to something better, I don't think anybody's no, we're so scared of that. No. So the goal is to get everybody covered. So we're good on that. But I guess where the controversy comes in is that we're going to do it by doing something other than the ACA. Oh my gosh. Yeah, run for the hills because it's not the ACA. The ACA is, let's say the ACA did some good. And I won't knock it entirely. It definitely did get more people covered. But if we're going to be real about it, we have to understand that it did not change the game whatsoever, and that prices are still rising under the ACA. Premiums are still rising under the ACA. It did not fix the entire problem. So it's ridiculous to categorize what Bernie wants to do as repeal and replace. It's stupid.
And even with the subsidized option that the ACA provided, people were still having a hard time paying their premiums.
Right.
So,
all right, so we're going to stay on healthcare, and Bernie Sanders, John Delaney, and Warren are going to, I guess they're going to have a different commentary on the subject of healthcare on this clip.
You support Medicare for all, which would eventually take private health insurance away from more than 150 million Americans in exchange for government-sponsored health care for everyone. Congressman Delaney just referred to it as bad policy, and previously he has called the idea political suicide that will just get President Trump reelected. What do you say to Congressman Delaney?
You're wrong. Right now, we have a dysfunctional healthcare system, 87 million uninsured or underinsured, 500,000 Americans every year going bankrupt because of medical bills, 30,000 people dying while the healthcare industry makes tens of billions of dollars in profit. 5 minutes away from here, John, is a country. It's called Canada. They guarantee healthcare to every man, woman, and child as a human right. They spend half of what we spend. And by the way, when you end up in a hospital in Canada, you come out with no bill at all. Healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. I believe that. I will fight for that.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Congressman Delaney?
Well, I'm right about this. We can create a universal healthcare system to give everyone basic healthcare for free, and I have a proposal to do it. But we don't have to go around and be the party of subtraction and telling half the country who has private health insurance that their health insurance is illegal. My dad, the union electrician, loved the health care he got from the IBEW. He would never want someone to take that away. Half of Medicare beneficiaries now have Medicare Advantage, which is private insurance, or supplemental plans. It's also bad policy. It'll underfund the industry. Many hospitals will close, and it's bad policy.
Senator Sanders,
My name was also mentioned in this.
We're going to come to you in 1 second, but let me go to Senator Sanders right now. Senator Sanders?
The fact of the matter is, tens of millions of people lose their health insurance every single year when they change jobs, when their employer changes that insurance. If you want stability in the healthcare system, if you want a system which gives you freedom of choice with regard to doctor or hospital, which is a system which will not bankrupt you, the answer is to get rid of the profiteering of the drug companies and the insurance companies, move to Medicare for all.
But now he's talking about a different issue. What I'm talking about is really simple. We should deal with the tragedy of the uninsured and give everyone health care as a right. But why do we got to be the party of taking something away from people?
No one is the party.
That's what they're running on. They're running on telling half the country that your health insurance is illegal. It says it right in the bill.
All right, thank you.
We don't have to do that. We can give everyone health care and allow people to have choice. That's the American way.
Look,
thank you, Congressman. Senator Warren?
So look, let's be clear about this. We are the Democrats. We are not about trying to take away health care from anyone. That's what the Republicans are trying to do. And we should stop using Republican talking points in order to talk with each other about how to best provide that health care.
I'm glad she said that.
Yep.
I'm glad she said that.
And see, that was the clip. I kind of had it mislabeled, but that was the clip. And you heard Jake Tapper's initial question about taking stuff away, taking their insurance away from people's insurance away from them.
Yeah, it was a leading question.
Yes. It was a very disingenuous question. And I guess not governor, but former Representative Delaney's point is that, well, you know, we shouldn't be the party of subtraction. You know, we shouldn't be taking things away from people. You know, people like what they have. We should be the land of choice. You know, you don't want to get rid of the choice that people have in this country.
He said he wants to provide universal health care to everyone, but we want to give people a choice. And I'm like, wait a second. So Bernie's plan, Medicare for All plan, is a plan designed to provide everyone with health care. So how can Bullock make that point, that same point?
Delaney.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I get him confused sometimes.
I do too.
So how can Delaney make that point that he wants to give everyone health care? Those are the words that came out of his mouth.
Right.
But what came after was choice, which means private health care.
Right.
Private health insurance. I don't like to say private health care.
Right.
We need to say private health insurance.
True. But he mentioned about Medicare Advantage, which you know, a lot of people don't even understand what Medicare Advantage is, even people that are senior citizens. But I've worked with Medicare Advantage before, and all it is, it's an addition. It has more features, more benefits than just regular Medicare. Just regular Medicare, if you're somebody that goes to the doctor more than average, chances are that regular Medicare is not going to be the best solution for you. So his idea is, let's have it where the private health industry still has a role here. But why should they have a role? Why shouldn't Medicare just be able to provide health care for people without the assistance of the private healthcare industry? Why do we need them there?
Because Delaney himself is bankrolled by the insurance industry,
exactly.
and he would lose out.
Exactly.
He would lose out.
But Bernie said it right. Employers change companies routinely, which we've noted. People do not love their insurance companies. People love their doctors. They love the benefits. They love what they are getting for what they're paying. That's what they may love. But Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, you will never see anybody state those names because those companies don't matter. It's the actual product that they're getting.
Honestly, I think Delaney played into both Warren's and Bernie Sanders' hands because he mentioned something about his dad, and he said his dad loved his health care, and I'm like, you didn't say your dad loved the insurance company.
Exactly.
You said your dad loved his health care, which would still be there in a Medicare for All system.
Right.
It almost reminded me, that point he made reminded me of what we talked about the last show. Biden's anti-Medicare for All commercial,
Right.
where he had that woman on,
The retiree.
talking about, I worked for 30 years for my insurance. That's the same point Delaney was making.
Yeah.
So, and also another way he played into Bernie's hands was illustrated in Bernie's response to Delaney when Bernie was talking about the stability of people's health care being tied to their job.
Yeah. Why? Why is that necessary? You know? All right, so we're going to stay with healthcare. In this clip, it's going to be Bernie Sanders. Actually, it's going to be the same three discussing healthcare again. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and John Delaney.
As people talk about having insurance, there are millions of people who have insurance. They can't go to the doctor, and when they come out of the hospital, they go bankrupt. All right? What I am talking about, and others up here are talking about, is no deductibles and no co-payments. And Jake, your question is a Republican talking point. At the end of the day, and by the way, the healthcare industry will be advertising tonight on this program.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Warren, it's your turn.
Oh, can I complete that, please?
Your time is up,
They will
30
be
seconds.
advertising tonight with that talking point.
Senator Warren.
So we have to think of this in terms of the big frame. What's the problem in Washington? It works great for the wealthy. It works great for those who can hire armies of lobbyists and lawyers. And it keeps working great for the insurance companies and the drug companies. What it's going to take is real courage to fight back against them. These insurance companies do not have a God-given right to make $23 billion in profits and suck it out of our healthcare system.
Thank you, Senator.
They do not have a God-given
Thank you,
right
Senator.
to
On
put forms in
of the
place.
bill, it
I wanna let
says that it will
Congressman
take
Delaney
everyone off of their
They want to
insurance.
Thank you,
Tonight,
Senator. If
that's
we could
what
all
it
just
says.
stick to the
Okay,
rules
great.
of the time, that would be great.
So
Congressman Delaney.
I'm the only one on the stage who actually has experience in the healthcare business, and with all due respect, I don't think my colleagues understand the business. We have the public option,
not a
which is
business.
great. The public option is great, but it doesn't go far enough. It doesn't go far enough. I'm proposing universal health care, where everyone gets health care as a basic human right for free, but they have choices. My plan, Better Care, is fully paid for without raising middle-class tax options.
All right. So in that clip, you get to hear even more from John Delaney about what his plan is. Previously, he said, "Look, we're going to give everybody universal health care. You know, we want to give everybody health coverage. We want to make sure everybody's covered." But in this clip, he actually says the word free. So everybody's going to get health care for free. So look, Bernie Sanders has introduced a plan which has been categorized as giving health care for free. Now, is it actually free? No, of course there's going to be a cost. There's a cost to everything. Is it going to come at a cost to middle income individuals? It might, but in the form of taxes. But we will still come out way ahead of that. Yeah. Now, that's just one idea. It may not hit middle class individuals at all. But still, it's being categorized as something that's free. John Delaney has been one to push back on the idea of Medicare for all. And he says that he has a better idea.
And he says he has a plan that is going to be free for everyone.
It's with maintaining choice, though.
But how is it free for everyone and maintaining choice? Because once you introduce choice I guess, into the conversation, that suggests that insurance companies still exist.
Yes.
And people still pay premiums. So,
But that
how
can't
you
be.
That can't be.
Because he said it was going to be free.
And he said it was going to be free. But let's say he didn't mean the people that have the choice to pay for their premiums. How is he going to make health care free for everyone?
The only way that I see that he could actually...
Without raising taxes.
Yes. The only way I see that he could get to get to an outcome where health insurance is universal and free for consumers is that he would have to be subsidizing the private healthcare
Exactly.
industry.
He would.
Then they would have to provide healthcare for free, even though they're being paid to do it.
How is he going to do that?
How would you do that?
He's just there to be just to be a wrench in the washing machine.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what he's there to be. Because he's not making any sense.
Nah, it
He's
doesn't
just
make any sense, man.
his purpose here is to shit on Bernie Sanders.
Yep.
And pretty much CNN is in cahoots with Delaney.
Yes, that will become more clear as we as we go on.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So let's go to the next clip. The next clip is with Marianne Williamson and also, I believe, Senator Elizabeth Warren as well. So this is still on the issue of health care, and Marianne Williamson is asked how she feels about this. Now, mind you, in the first debate, she was not one of the people that raised her hands at the idea of Medicare for all and doing away with the private healthcare industry, their role in just general medicine, just general healthcare. So this is how she responded.
You know, we have tried this experiment with the insurance companies. And what they've done is they've sucked billions of dollars out of our healthcare system. And they force people to have to fight to try to get the healthcare coverage that their doctors and nurses say that they need. Why does every doctor, why does every hospital have to fill out so many complicated forms? It's because it gives insurance companies a chance to say no and to push that cost back on the patients.
Thank you, Senator Warren. I want to bring in Marianne Williamson. Ms. Williamson, how do you respond to the criticism from Senator Warren that you're not willing to fight for Medicare for all?
I don't know if Senator Warren said that about me specifically. I admire very much what Senator Warren has said and what Bernie has said. But I have to say, I'm normally way over there with Bernie and Elizabeth on this one. I hear the others, and I have some concern about that as well. And I do have concern about what the Republicans would say, and that's not just a Republican talking point. I do have concern that it will be difficult. I have concern that it will make it harder to win, and I have a concern that it will make it harder to govern. Because if that's our big fight, then the Republicans will so shut us down on everything else.
Mayor Buttigieg,
it is time to stop worrying about what the Republicans will say. Look, If it's true that if we embrace a far-left agenda, they're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. If we embrace a conservative agenda, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. So let's just stand up for the right policy, go out there and defend it.
I was disappointed in that answer. I mean, I understand she takes the health care question to a different place. Mm-hmm. I understand that. I think we've talked about that before. And in the last debate, she takes it to, I guess, a more, I wouldn't say it's abstract. It's in a broader sense. She talks about agriculture policy and food policy.
Chemical policy.
And chemical policy. So I completely understand that. So I think she's trying too hard to avoid this Medicare for all conversation and be in the middle, because she has kind of a broader outlook on it. And I don't know what her strategy was in taking that position. It just seemed a bit weak, and I was just disappointed.
Look, we got to call it like we see it. And, many times on this program, we have praised Marianne Williamson and supported many of her ideas, many of her comments. I, like Mike, was very disappointed in what I heard from her on the subject of Medicare for all. it did sound very weak. It sounded like she had no backbone whatsoever. To say that, let's be scared. Like, we should be scared of what the GOP will say. If this is our big fight, they may shut us down on other things. As you're going to hear in other clips, Marianne Williamson, she has a lot of big ideas. And we have discussed those big ideas before. And she has been so forceful on these big ideas because they are the right thing to do. But on this subject, on this stage, she backed up like she was scared about the reaction to just doing the right thing on the issue of healthcare. So I think what Pete Buttigieg said was extremely right on the money in saying that the GOP, Republicans, conservatives, they're gonna describe us as crazy socialists, no matter if we are moderates, centrists, right-leaning, left-leaning. It doesn't matter if we're progressives or what. They're all going to describe us as socialists. So let's just do what we think the right thing is and just let it be.
Yeah, Buttigieg did capitalize on that situation.
He did.
And he was completely right.
Completely right.
Marianne Williamson usually deals with issues head on and with her chest poked out. But on this issue,
yeah, it was weak.
It was weak.
Yeah.
Luckily, this was the only time during this debate she went in that particular direction.
Right.
So.
All right, so let's get to staying on healthcare. There was an exchange between Representative Tim Ryan and Senator Bernie Sanders. And Representative Tim Ryan's contention was that, or I guess he was explaining that he's a little concerned about these union-backed healthcare policies that were agreed upon, and how he doesn't think it's a good idea to get rid of them. He doesn't think that the American people are going to be supportive of that. So here's the exchange here.
This plan that's being offered by Senator Warren and Senator Sanders will tell those union members who gave away wages in order to get good health care that they're going to lose their health care because Washington's going to come in and tell them they got a better plan. This is the left and right thing. New and better is this. Move Medicare down to 50. Allow people to buy in. Kaiser Permanente said that if those 60 million people do that, they will see a 40% reduction in their health care costs. Let businesses buy in, Jake.
So, Senator, let's talk about that. If Medicare for All is enacted, there are more than 600,000 union members here in Michigan who would be forced to give up their private health care plans. Now, I understand that it would provide universal coverage, but can you guarantee those union members that the benefits under Medicare for All will be as good as the benefits that their representatives, their union reps, fought hard to negotiate?
Well, two things. They will be better because Medicare for All is comprehensive. It covers all health care needs for senior citizens. It will finally include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
But you don't know
Second of all,
you don't know that,
Second
Bernie.
of all,
We'll come to you in a second,
I do know, and I wrote the damn bill. Second of all, many of our union brothers and sisters, nobody more pro-union than me up here, are now paying high deductibles and co-payments. And when we do Medicare for All, instead of having the company putting money into health care, they can get decent wage increases, which they're not getting today.
So that was that moment. This was that moment of the debate where, up until this point, Bernie was still having, I think, a far better showing that he had in the first debate. But this is where I think, Bernie came out. He was challenged and saying, like, you don't know what you're talking about, Bernie. You don't know that Medicare for All is going to be as good as these, union-backed plans. He's like, nah, man. Like, let me correct you. I wrote the damn bill. I know what the hell I'm talking about. And he said that. It was a great moment, man. He could have just dropped the mic right there.
I think there was an inference at the end. It just was silent.
Yeah.
He said bitch.
It didn't come through.
It just didn't come through. I know he said it.
Because you would kind of say that towards the end. Yeah.
I would
challenge me.
I would say that Bernie being, I don't think it's necessarily Bernie being the center of attention that kind of brought him out.
Yeah.
I think it's people offering ridiculous talking points that did that. Things that he can easily debunk. Right. That's what made him mad. So when he was challenged, he stepped up to the plate and was like, "Hold up, dude. Hold up.
You don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I do. Now let me do what I do and make you look stupid."
Right. Like the whole issue, you know, if we're going to talk about these union agreed upon health insurance policies, we've made the point before that employers shouldn't even be in the discussion when we're talking about health coverage. That should be removed from what they're responsible for. It shouldn't matter if you have a job as to if you have, I guess, affordable health care. That should not be a combination. The two should not be together. So whatever the union has agreed upon, and if Tim Ryan is saying that they have, I guess, forfeited increased wages because they are getting some added benefits, the benefits being health care, well then, after the reality of Medicare for all is implemented, they can go back to the table and agree to something else that is more beneficial to them because they're not getting that benefit of healthcare because it's not there anymore. There's no reason for it to be there. So the employer would have no reason to not pay them more, right?
But again, I guess that's only the case if they're not getting health care from somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's only a concern that they're not getting health care through their job if it just completely goes away. Tim Ryan was trying to make it like, it's not just Tim Ryan. It was a few on that stage. Mm-hmm. We're trying to present this case that their health care would just completely go away because they're not getting it through their job.
And that it could possibly be worse than what they're getting right now. This is the whole fear-mongering tactic.
And it still doesn't address jobs that don't provide health care for their employees. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of jobs where employees have to foot half the bill. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so we could talk about the companies that provide health care for their employees or provide supplemental health care. Mm-hmm. But what about the people that don't?
Yeah.
What about the people that don't work at places that offer health care or offer like full coverage, right, or even just offer half coverage? So it's like they're centering the conversation on people who already have coverage when the conversation should be centered on people who struggle to get coverage or don't have access to coverage.
The marriage that is employment and health coverage needs to end. It needs to end. That's it, man. All right, so here on this next clip, Senator Bernie Sanders is asked about his idea of providing health care to undocumented immigrants.
Senator Sanders, you want to provide undocumented immigrants free health care and free college. Why won't this drive even more people to come to the U.S. illegally?
This will have a strong border protections. But the main point I want to make is that what Trump is doing through his racism and his xenophobia is demonizing a group of people. And as president, I will end that demonization. If a mother and a child walk thousands of miles on a dangerous path, in my view, they are not criminals. They are people fleeing violence. And I think the main thing that we've got to do, among many others, and Beto made this point, we've got to ask ourselves, why are people walking 2,000 miles to a strange country where they don't know the language? So what we will do the first week we are in the White House is bring the entire hemisphere together to talk about how we rebuild Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador so people do not have to flee their own countries.
Thank you.
I don't even like the question because first of all, they don't even agree with universal health care anyway.
I know, right?
So why are they even worried about whether undocumented immigrants receive some sort of benefits?
They don't even want citizens.
They don't want citizens that have
healthcare.
universal health care.
Right.
But I mean, think about what the question itself suggests about how immigrants are viewed in the first place. Mm-hmm. Because Bernie Sanders referenced Trump. And we all know about Trump's rhetoric as it pertains to immigrants and the rhetoric he spews on a constant basis. And to be quite frank, it just sounded like Jake Tapper kind of presented a question that was softly
Dana,
bigoted.
that was Dana Bash.
So Dana Bash?
Yeah,
Sorry, it was
Dana
Dana
Bash.
Bash. It was softly bigoted. And it's not like, it doesn't have like the same feel to it, but it's like, hey, why would you give those people some sort of benefit that only certain people, only people who deserve it get? Like, we're citizens.
I guess we're like full humans.
Yeah, we're full human. We're full human beings. Like, healthcare is like this kind of, I guess it's a badge.
Yeah.
It's a badge of honor that we only, I guess, place on certain people.
Yeah.
Certain people that we value, and since they're not valued as undocumented, they don't deserve it like we do.
Yo,
like,
man.
how does that even? I don't know. I just don't like the way that sounds.
If somebody, let's say somebody's lying in the street, passed out, unconscious. Let's say somebody got hit by a car. That person is brought to the hospital, and if that person needs life-saving, medical attention, then that person gets life-saving medical attention, right? Now, if that person
not if they're undocumented,
but they do. Right now, what we have right now, they do.
Why should they get an ambulance like
Exactly.
us citizens get, Will?
See,
Why should they?
I
why
guess the
should they
point
get
that I'm making is that we have a situation where that is the current reality. So we already provide for people that could possibly be undocumented immigrants. So that's because, I guess in this country, we're trying to, I mean, some of us are trying to do the humane thing. If people in this country need assistance, healthcare assistance, they need medical assistance, then they should get it. No matter if they actually are, have papers and they're supposed to be here or not. Like, again, all of this goes to the point that we need a process. We need a process that involves a pathway to citizenship. We need a better plan than what we have right now along the border. We need a better plan. And I like what Bernie Sanders says in taking it back to the Southern American countries as well. We need a plan for those countries as well, so that they aren't I guess they're not living in a situation where they're trying to flee their current situations to get to the United States. Of course, there's going to be migration all across the globe. But if you can create a situation where they're better where they are, like in their home countries, I assume that they would probably want to stay in their home countries if they are afforded the opportunity to not be impacted by violence or, political kind of, attacks and stuff like that. So, like I said, Bernie Sanders, that's not the first time he's not the first person. It's not the first time he has said something about this as well. Other people have made the comment. And I think somebody else actually made the comment at this debate as well, too. I can't remember.
He's kind of hinting at foreign policy.
Yes.
But, like, I think our foreign policy always centers upon how we can economically drain other countries.
Yeah.
And how we can
impose sanctions
and concentrate the wealth in certain places,
Yeah.
and specifically in the United States. So what is the logical consequence of wealth and opportunity and access being concentrated in one place? People are going to be drawn to that place. So we're creating this.
So, like I said, that's why I like what he said about really addressing these nations where people are fleeing.
But let's just get them documented. Because the question is centered around giving benefits to undocumented people, right? So why isn't that a follow-up question? Because it's not really about that. Yeah. This is it's about those people getting any kind of benefits regardless of whether they're undocumented or not.
It's about who they are, too.
It's about who they are.
Where they come from, what they look like.
Why not just expedite the process?
Because you don't want undocumented people to receive benefits, so
just get them documented.
Yeah. All right, so I think next we're gonna go to the subject surrounded crime. It had to do with guns. I think most responses were okay. It wasn't really too much disagreement with it. I think Amy Klobuchar had a kind of subtle disagreement with Pete Buttigieg. Not too much or anything like that. But we have a clip from Pete Buttigieg. I said poop.
You said poop.
But yeah, we have a clip from Pete Buttigieg just talking about, I guess, the subject of guns and money in politics and what we can do, I guess with respect to the Constitution.
still the conversation that we've been having for the last 20 years. Of course we need to get money out of politics. But when I propose the actual structural democratic reforms that might make a difference, end the Electoral College, amend the Constitution if necessary to clear up Citizens United, have D.C. actually be a state, and depoliticize the Supreme Court with structural reform, people look at me funny, as if this country were incapable of structural reform. Does anybody really think we're going to overtake Citizens United without constitutional action? This is a country that once changed its constitution so you couldn't drink, and then change it back because we changed our minds about that. And you're telling me we can't reform our democracy in our time?
Thank you, Mayor.
We have to, or we'll be having the same argument 20 years from now.
Sounded good.
Yeah, well, see,
I mean,
what I liked about it is that I don't think people really realize that the Constitution has been amended many times before. And I think we live in such a time where things are so polarized, and Congress, there's so much bickering back and forth, and it's not just the argument about civility. It's about how extreme I think the Republican Party is and how they're obstructionists, and they don't want to come back from where they have gotten to. So
they almost want to go back.
Yeah, they want to go more right. So it's just I like what he said because it just I guess puts you in the frame of mind that things can change. The Constitution can be changed, and it has been changed before on the like simple subject, really, that's not really impacting lives in a like a really meaningful way. Alcohol. Outlawed it and then brought it back into law where it's permissible. So if we're talking about something like money in politics, we should be able to do something on that front, because that's much more impactful to just regular day people in this country than alcohol.
I do think that scares a lot of politicians when he's talking about, not just with him, but anybody talks about constitutional changes. Mm-hmm. I think that it scares people because maybe they don't understand or don't know or unaware that the Constitution has been amended quite frequently.
Mm-hmm. But in our lifetime, it hasn't. So that's why, like people, I don't think they really realize that like it's a possibility. Like that's even something that can be done.
So why do people kind of hold on to the Constitution like it's this kind of immutable,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like it's a standstill object.
Like it's just static.
Right.
It can't be changed at all. If you do, you're unpatriotic. Like this is it's like a pure document.
Right.
I mean, I like what he said too. Maybe he's just not the right person to say it. That's all. Like I don't have any disagreement with what he said, but how he opened up with, of course we got to get money out of politics, mm-hmm. when we know that he's taking money from Wall Street executives. So he says he knows it.
Yeah.
But this is like one of the main problems with liberals, mm-hmm. in that they think they can, change the system, make changes to the system, mm-hmm. and I guess influence systematic change, but still take money from corporations, the very thing that prevents that change from happening. So I agree with his points. It's just I don't think he's the right person to make them.
I think he would probably think that, and it's not just him too, but it seems to be the feeling is that right-wing money is bad. Left-wing money, not so bad. Yeah. We're doing the right thing so we can take that money.
We are taking that money because we trust that these corporations are going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
If that was the case, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
If that was actually
if
the
it
case,
was true.
If it was true.
Yeah.
If
we had an idea that corporations really were interested,
but they wouldn't be giving them money. They wouldn't be lobbying and giving money to politicians, to do the right thing. They just do the right thing. This doesn't work like that.
I mean, it's possible. You could be a corporation that wanted to do the right thing, and you could actually advocate for that in the form of money.
Oh, no doubt.
You
yes. You can lobby for good causes.
Right.
Not saying that they're not good causes to lobby for. It's not. It's barely existent.
That would be noble And we don't have a lot of that going on in money and politics.
Hey. I'm a Goldman Sachs representative, and I'm coming to Politician X.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you money to keep us in check.
Yeah,
I'm a lobby on behalf of the consumers and the American people. I want to give you money so you can do your job for the American people.
Because corruption is
and keep us
too
in
far.
check. Corruption is going too far. And
Can't
so we're
have
going to
no
give
more.
you money so we won't be corrupt. Just don't be corrupt. You see what I'm saying? So the money is not given to them for altruistic purposes.
Right. All right, so the next clip, we're going to stay on the issue of guns, money, and politics. Marion Williamson gets into the conversation.
The issue of gun safety, of course, is that the NRA has us in a chokehold. But so do the pharmaceutical companies, so do the health insurance companies, so do the fossil fuel companies, and so do the defense contractors. And none of this will change until we either pass a constitutional amendment or pass legislation that establishes public funding for federal campaigns. But for politicians, including my fellow candidates, who themselves have taken tens of thousands and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars from these same corporate donors, to think that they now have the moral authority to say, we're going to take them on, I don't think the Democratic Party should be surprised that so many Americans believe yada, yada, yada. It is time for us to start over with people who have not taken donations from any of these corporations and can say with real moral authority, that is over. We are going to establish public funding for federal campaigns. That's what we need to stand up to. We need to have a constitutional amendment. We need to have legislation to do it. And until we do it, it's just the same old, same old.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the kind of Marion. Well, that's the Marion I'd like to hear.
Exactly.
Who did she call out there again? She didn't call out Republicans there.
No, she called out Democrats.
Kind of like what I was just saying about the Democratic Party taking money from corporations and how it, I don't know, comes off as disingenuous to be the moral authority on curbing corruption if you're taking money from
you're
these
doing the same
corporations.
thing.
You're doing the same
You
thing.
believe
And what did you say? You said left-wing money is bad?
Yeah.
Or
left-wing money is good.
Right-wing
money is
bad. Yeah. Left-wing, liberals.
Yeah, left-wing. It was right on the money what she said. We do need public funding for our elections, no doubt. And I think it's definitely a conflict of interest for these Democrats to be taking the same money. It could be from different sources, but it's the same process that Republicans engage in. And so I have the same feeling as the people that she's talking about. How you look at these Democratic politicians and you know that they're taking the money, but they're saying the right thing and they seem to be advocating for you. You have to be, you have to turn up an eye to them and be like, I mean, are you really for real? Like, look what you're doing. The whole thing about this, though, what really rubbed me the wrong way about what Marion Williamson said is her first comments. Like, the first time that she spoke on this debate stage was about healthcare and how she just kind of just punted. She was like, well, I don't think we should go that far because, look at what the Republicans might do. They might really attack us and then, we might not be able to get anything else done. She's so forceful on so many right things because she thinks it's the right way to go. She's interested in just doing the right thing for human beings in this country and globally as well. So that answer about healthcare kind of clouded the rest of her performance for me, even though she didn't come off like that again.
Maybe because that was the first thing you heard from her.
Yeah.
And it was
just so weak.
It just seemed out of character, considering, I guess, what we've seen from her in the past.
Yeah.
She made it a point to kind of, I guess, personally issue some sort of direct, I wouldn't call it an ultimatum, but a challenge to Donald Trump.
Right. That's true.
You know what I'm saying? That was in the first debate,
right,
where she was like, I, like me and you, like toe-to-toe type thing.
She was speaking right to him.
She was speaking right to him.
Right.
So we know she is very capable of dealing with certain topics or certain issues head on, and being very, I don't know, giving a very detailed analysis and kind of allowing her talking points coming from a multitude of directions to converge and make a very insightful analysis on whatever the topic is. And so I like this. I do like it. I like what she just said, but just I'm in agreement with you. I'm just that
it's a cloud. It was a cloud. It you know, and like you said, it happened right at the beginning. So when you're hearing the other response, it was like
where was that at?
Where was that
at? You know,
like why did you come off so weak and wanted to run away from doing the right thing on the issue of healthcare, but everything else, you're right there with you're right where you need to be, on the side of people. Whatever.
Anyway, that to me that took her performance down to 8.5.
Yeah. All right. So the debate got back to the issue of healthcare once again. That was the biggest issue of the whole night. And here we have a clip that former governor of Colorado, John Hickenlooper, and Senator Bernie Sanders are talking about healthcare.
I think if we're going to force Americans to make these radical changes, they're not going to go along. You throw your hands up, but you haven't. I can do it. But you haven't implemented the plans. Us governors and mayors are the ones that we have to pick up all the pieces. When suddenly the government's supposed to take over all these responsibilities, and there's no preparation, the details aren't worked. You can't just spring a plan on the world and expect it to succeed.
Senator Sanders.
John, I was a mayor, and I helped transform my city. I have some practical experience. Second of all, interestingly enough, today is the anniversary of Medicare. 54 years ago, under Lyndon Johnson and the Democratic Congress, they started a new program. After 1 year, 19 million elderly people in it. Please don't tell me that in a 4-year period, we cannot go from 65 down to 55 to 45 to 35. This is not radical. This is what virtually every other country on earth does. We are.
Thank you, Senator.
I want to bring out.
Yo, man, Bernie's not playing. Bernie's not playing, man.
Yeah.
Stop messing with Bernie, all right? Stop messing with Bernie, man. He's about to lose it on you.
You know, in any situation, when you're engaging in debate, there are multiple opportunities where there are fucks to give. Fucks to give. There's fucks to give everywhere.
Yeah, and you got to measure that.
You got to measure that.
Like
There are a lot of,
how many should I give right
now? How
now?
much fucks should I give?
Yeah.
Bernie didn't give any fucks at all. Like, he was very...
Throw your hands up. Okay.
Yeah, very responsive. He was like, all right, yeah, that's me.
Yeah,
so it's like, again, like those, we could cheer those type of antics on and be like, yeah, that's right. Tell him, Bernie. But like, if you view those little expressions as anything, you would view those as like Bernie owning himself, Bernie owning his platform and being free to do that. Yes. Like, yeah, all right, I'm going to take you on and I'm going to be animated and I'm going to own who I am. I'm going to own my platform and I'm going to let that show. And so those little outbursts like that to me is an illustration of that. Man, like I said, I think they backed themselves into a corner, centering the conversation on Medicare for all and directing the questions towards the other candidates in a way to set Bernie up to fail. And what happened was...
You get that kind of response from Bernie Sanders. And I think it's interesting that Bernie Sanders brought up Medicare and how it was the anniversary of Medicare. Decades ago, John Hickenlooper, he would not be on the side of implementing Medicare. The centrists that were on that stage last night would not be on the side of implementing Medicare, which at the time was framed as very radical and socialist, okay? Same thing. So if that can happen, way back then, decades ago, Medicare was actually passed and was put into place, and we still have it today. Now, Medicare today is not framed as socialist and radical. It's not at all. Decades ago, yes.
All right, so, okay. I want you to make the point. I want you to make the point of why that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So
why it makes sense how they're framing it.
The whole conversation or the whole I guess the whole opposition to Bernie Sanders is not the whole opposition, but much of it is about Medicare for all. His idea, Medicare for all. It's simply an extension of Medicare. It's making Medicare better, definitely, because for seniors, not everything is covered. But still, it's allowing everybody, no matter how old you are, to be covered by Medicare.
But allowing everybody to be covered by Medicare is socialist.
Yes. Which is ridiculous.
But allowing a few people or some people.
Yes. A section of the population.
That's not socialism. That's not radical socialism.
No. We can get behind something like that because it's not about to be passed. You see? Like I said, if they were back at the time where Medicare was being discussed before it was implemented, Hickenlooper would be in opposition to it.
And, in a roundabout way, Bernie Sanders did make that point. He didn't make it exactly the way Will made it.
Yeah.
But did you notice what he was trying to do?
Yeah.
When he was going down the tier of ages?
Right.
That's what he was doing.
That's what
he was like, wait a second. If it's a program that you all accept and you all think is good and it's available to people who are from this age on up, then why can't it be available for individuals who are 10 years younger than that threshold age and then 10 years younger? That's why he was doing that.
So this was the moment of the debate where if you didn't already, I guess, get the clue that something was in the works here with how the debate was supposed to go, like the whole strategic element of the debate from CNN. If you didn't get the idea by now that CNN had a certain thing that they wanted to accomplish, which was attack Bernie Sanders, say, Bernie Sanders, you ain't shit, everybody weigh in. If you didn't get that already, this is where it was confirmed, because right here is where you see screenshots like this. Do you believe Senator Sanders is too extreme to beat President Trump? And so that's how the whole conversation and that's how their exchange began. Do you believe Senator Sanders is too extreme to defeat Donald Trump? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm like, wait a second. Like, you got to, those aren't like impromptu lower thirds or chevrons or whatever they call them. Those are not like, I guess, graphics that are, spontaneous.
No.
Oh, let's type that graphic in. You see what I'm saying? This is all
they
set
had
up.
that already made.
They already, obviously,
Yes.
of course, they had the questions set up. We know that. But they had the graphics set up too.
Yes.
And they knew who they were going to ask those specific questions.
This was another one, and we're going to get to some more of these a little bit later, but this was another one where it's, it was the same kind of conversation. I believe it was the same kind of conversation about, the economy, healthcare. By calling yourself a capitalist, are you trying to convince voters you are a safer choice than Senator Sanders? The object or the target was Senator Bernie Sanders from CNN. They wanted everybody to weigh in on how Bernie Sanders was a horrible candidate for president of the United States.
Did you notice it at first?
Not at first.
I didn't notice it at first because they started with Medicare for all, so it made sense.
Yeah, of course it made sense.
But then
once it kept going,
we were like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Like when they were directing questions to candidates, it was all Bernie centered.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, John, tell us why Bernie sucks.
Yes.
Tim, tell us why Bernie's platform is scary. You know what I'm saying?
That's just what it is. Like,
Steve,
tell us how much Bernie Sanders is full of shit.
That's pretty much what they were doing.
And if you want to challenge Bernie Sanders, which I assume that they were going to do anyway, if you want to challenge Bernie Sanders on his ideas and say, Bernie Sanders, there's a lot of backlash about this plan. How can you explain yourself? Cool. But when you're asking other people, hey, Bernie Sanders ain't shit, the floor is yours. It's really weird.
It's really weird because they're not really questions. They're questions. Well, no, you know what? They're talking points in the form of questions.
Yes.
That's what they are. It's like, hey, tell us why the American people will not accept Bernie Sanders as their president. Tell us why Bernie's policies will not be popular amongst Americans. Like, it's really talking points in the form of questions.
Yeah.
And it was quite obvious.
All right, so this is on that same, it was in the same topic of conversation. Because, and this is the thing, with MSNBC, it was broken down into different subjects. You know, it could be immigration, it could be healthcare, it could be foreign policy, it could be guns. It was broken down into certain issues that they were talking about. And it wasn't different with CNN, but CNN also included the topics of, do you believe Senator Sanders is too extreme to beat President Trump? That's an issue. Like, that's an issue like immigration. That's an issue like, the minimum wage, like criminal justice reform. That's not an issue. That's not. But anyway, so under that
that's
same.
That's an issue.
That's an issue for CNN.
No, that's an issue if the only goal is beating Trump.
Yes. But so under that same, I think that was under the same issue that they were talking about. There was an exchange between Elizabeth Warren and John Delaney. And you'll see what happens.
So I think Democrats win when we run on real solutions, not impossible promises. When we run on things that are workable, not fairy tale economics. Look at the story of Detroit, this amazing city that we're in. This city is turning around because the government and the private sector are working well together. That has to be our model going forward. We need to encourage collaboration between the government, the private sector, and the nonprofit sector, and focus on those kitchen table, pocketbook issues that matter to hardworking Americans: building infrastructure, creating jobs, improving their pay,
Thank you, Congressman.
creating universal health care,
Thank you,
lowering drug
Congressman.
prices.
Senator
We can
Warren.
do it.
You know, I don't understand why anybody goes to all the trouble of running for president of the United States just to talk about what we really can't do and shouldn't fight for. Problem in Washington is corruption. It is giant corporations that have taken our government and that are holding it by the throat. And we need to have the courage to fight back against that. And until we're ready to do that, it's just more of the same. Well, I'm ready to get in this fight. I'm ready to win this fight.
Thank you, Senator.
You know, I labeled that particular file. Warren throws a fucking hammer at Delaney.
Delaney got dunked on.
Eviscerated, man. His neck was just sliced. It was wow. But it was right on the money, though. It was appropriate.
Oh, and that was definitely spontaneous. There was no way Elizabeth Warren knew that John Delaney was going to say that. Well, maybe not, because he does have a profile, but she didn't know that he was going to say that exact thing. No. And she definitely took advantage of that situation.
Yep. That was her highlight.
And made him look like
debate.
a doofus. Yeah. I never, got pants. No, not pants. I never got pantsed or never got given a wedgie in school. I don't know how I avoided it, because you know how dudes are, man. We just screw with each other. So I was able to get through school and avoid wedgies. Mm-hmm. John Delaney, he just received a deep crack wedgie from Elizabeth Warren right there.
I'm
talking about where his drawers, not
over the head,
not underwear, his drawers. His drawers got pulled over his head, like on stage.
I understood that, but
and then after Elizabeth Warren pulled the drawers over his head, I think at that point she ripped his heart out. He was dead.
Yeah, man. He got killed.
He got killed.
So drop out. So this is your moment to drop out after this, man.
Yeah, he received a wedgie and he got his heart ripped out. And it's a shame how inhumane CNN was to let him continue.
Yeah, dead on the stage.
Dead on the stage.
You just let a dead man be on the stage to the end of the debate.
It was bad.
Like I said, what Warren said was completely appropriate, and it's something that we have said before, especially in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. You're running on a campaign of no, we can't. No, we can't do that. No, we can't go that far. And John Delaney is continuing that kind of strategy at a Democratic debate in 2019. No, we can't do this. He said, talking about fairy tale economics. So the economics that are good is to keep the system exactly how it is. That's what's good economics. That's what's doable.
That was
done.
Something that I thought was interesting. Well, one of the things that I thought was interesting about John Delaney in that debate was how he could, I guess refer to Bernie's policies or Elizabeth Warren's policies as fairy tale economics. Mm-hmm. When within that little, I guess, little segment right there, he was talking. He made a comment about, government and corporations working together for the people. And I don't know what example he was using to prove that that is actually working, because that is actually not working.
Well, it's working for some people. And you could kind of say that right now we have fairy tale economics, but
that's the fairy tale economics he was talking about.
The main stars of this fairy tale are corporations, CEOs, the very wealthy.
What is he talking about? Like, where is this happening at?
I don't know, man. Like I said, the fairy tale that he is discussing and the one that he wants to preserve is where, very wealthy people just like him gets the princess. I guess that's what he's talking about.
So what he means by fairy tale economics is, let's say, not the fairy tale he's living in, because his fairy tale is actually real.
Yes, it's playing out.
It's playing out.
Right.
So that's why his is not a fairy tale, because his fantasy, which is not actually a fantasy, it's reality.
It's reality.
It's reality.
Yeah. Isn't that nice?
Is it?
Damn, that's nice, isn't it?
Must be nice.
All right, let's keep going. Have about a half hour left. Get a few clips left. All right, so this next clip is Tim Ryan. All right, so there was an exchange between Tim Ryan and Bernie Sanders yet again. And it was on the issue of climate. Now, Tim Ryan had some commentary about, the ways that he wants to see, this country go. And, I don't even know that I disagreed with anything that he said. And I'm not even sure that Bernie Sanders disagreed as well, but it prompted a certain type of reaction from Tim Ryan. So you're going to see, this interaction that they had.
I get a little bit tired of Democrats afraid of big ideas. Republicans are not afraid of big ideas. They could give $1 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires and profitable corporations. They could bail out the crooks on Wall Street. So please don't tell me that we cannot take on the fossil fuel industry and nothing happens unless we do that. Here is the bottom line. We've got to ask ourselves a simple question. What do you do with an industry that knowingly, for billions of dollars in short-term profits, is destroying this planet? I say that is criminal activity that cannot be allowed to continue.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Congressman, your response.
Well, yeah, I would just say, I didn't say we couldn't get there till 2040, Bernie. You don't have to yell. I mean, all I'm saying is we have to invent our way out of this thing. And if we're waiting for 2040 for a ban to come in on gasoline vehicles, we're screwed. So we better get busy now. And that's why I'm saying, get a chief manufacturing officer, align the environmental incentives with the financial incentives, and make sure that people can actually make money off of the new technologies that are moving forward. And then here's what I'll do as president, cut the worker in on the deal. Make sure these are union jobs, and I will double union membership to make sure that these new jobs pay what the old fossil fuel jobs pay.
Senator Sanders, your response.
Look, on this issue, my friends, there is no choice. We have got to be super aggressive if we love our children and if we want to leave them a planet that is healthy and is habitable. So I don't disagree with Tim. What that means is we got to A, take on the fossil fuel industry. B, it means we have to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, and a hell of a lot of good union jobs as we do that. We got to transform our transportation system, and we have to lead the world.
Thank you, Senator
Sanders. This is not just an American issue.
All right, so let me set this up just a little bit. So you remember when I said CNN was trying to do something here, and they were trying to hit Bernie and say how much Bernie, sucked, and how much full of shit he was, and how much of shit that he is, and trying to just get candidates to weigh in. So this was another one of those opportunities, another one of those moments. So this was the lower third that was on the screen when Tim Ryan was talking. Are you concerned about Senator Sanders' plan to end new gas-powered car sales by 2040? So Tim Ryan, I don't believe in his answer. He actually even hit at Bernie Sanders. I don't believe he even hit at Bernie Sanders. So it wasn't really like they were arguing with each other, but other people had commented on things like the Green New Deal, which isn't even a bill. It's not legislation. It was just something put together. It was like framework of like what we need to do. It was like an outline of things that we need to address, like where the direction we need to go in. But it has not been drafted as a policy yet. But there were, multiple candidates that were, the Green New Deal is this, we can't do that. It's going to lead to loss of jobs, and then no, we can't do that, blah, blah, blah. So that's really what Bernie Sanders was responding to. But I guess Representative Tim Ryan felt attacked. And so he had the line of, you don't have to yell at me, Bernie. You got to yell at me. And he also, and like I said, I think it's imperative to restate that when Bernie Sanders took back the mic and started talking, he said that, no, he doesn't disagree with what Tim Ryan was saying. Like I said, it wasn't really a disagreement between those two. But still, Tim Ryan, after the debate, felt the need to I guess to capture this opportunity. He wanted to capture it. He wanted to make it mean something.
Mean something in a positive way for him.
Yeah, for him. So this is what he did. He created a sticker, and so he put it on Twitter. It says, "If we truly care about lifting up every voice and fighting on behalf of the issues that keep Americans up at night, let's start by making our conversation civil and productive. You don't have to yell." Tim Ryan 2020. So this is something that you can actually buy now. I assume from his campaign website. It's a sticker that you can actually buy. You don't have to yell. What kind of merchandising is this? Who's going to be like, yeah, Tim Ryan, you don't have to yell? It's so sad.
How you gonna create a campaign slogan?
Oh gosh.
How you gonna create a campaign slogan that's based on, or I would say it glorifies a situation where you were looking like a straight bitch? How can you take that and flip it?
And you weren't even attacked in this situation.
And I don't think it was the yelling he had a problem with. It was just the truth. Because Bernie's tone wasn't any different.
No, it really wasn't.
I mean, that's the
he
same
wasn't
tone
pounding
he's
on the
had.
table or
yeah,
anything like that.
The same tone he's had. He had the whole debate. So I don't know, why
did he
was
feel
up in
attacked?
his feelings. You don't gotta yell, Bernie. You don't gotta yell. It's like, yo, did Bernie steal your lunch money? I'm like, dude, that was actually kind of weird.
It was weak. It was
weird and weak. Yeah. One thing I don't like about kind of his approach to solving, climate change, if you noticed, in his response, he made it a point to include a profit motive. Mm-hmm. The profit motive essentially has to line up with your environmental policy. He seemed to be more concerned with we still have to be able to make money, Bernie.
Right.
We still have to we got some money to make. So if your environmental policy, is not profitable, then hey, it's not viable. Think about that.
Yeah,
about that.
It did seem like that came across.
Think about what kind of, how does that make him, how that makes him look. Mm-hmm. He's still worried about profit and whether we can make money rather than just saving the damn planet and doing the right thing.
Now look, if he's talking about the jobs of people, I understand him and I hear him, because that is something that you have to address, because there's a lot of people that are involved in fossil fuel technology and have very low level positions on that. And of course, if you're going to transition to something that is renewable energy, solar technology, wind power, all of this, then some jobs are definitely going to be lost. So with that conversation, there's always been an emphasis on, okay, well, some people are going to have their jobs cut, but maybe they can transition into the new technology, into the new system that we're going to create. So that's always been something that's been discussed. I understand, I guess his concern about this area. And again, this is where I don't really have a disagreement with him, if he is still on the timeline that we want to see. If he's interested in utilizing the technology that we develop until we get to a point in time. If your hardline position is we have to do this by then, if that's your hardline position, then I mean, like, I'm not in disagreement with you with what you're going to do up until then. Because, of course, we know that fossil fuel technology is going to remain for at least in the short term and for many years until we actually, transition this country into 100% renewable technology. So, like I said, I don't have a problem with them. But if he's saying that, well, we're going to do this and then somewhere down the line, we'll get to 100% renewable technology, then, you lost me. So, like I said, that was the conversation that a lot of people that was the talking point that a lot of people were having. And they were, like I said, throwing some shade on the Green New Deal as well. So in this next clip, there's an exchange between Governor of Montana, Steve Bullock, and Bernie Sanders. Actually, and I don't think it's an exchange. Actually, I think this is just a clip of Bullock kind of shitting on the Green New Deal, actually.
Look, Steve, there ain't nobody in the Congress who's more strongly pro-worker than I am. So when I talk about taking on the fossil fuel industry, what I am also talking about is a just transition. All right, we can create, and what the Green New Deal is about, it's a bold idea. We can create millions of good paying jobs. We can rebuild communities in rural America that have been devastated. So we are not anti-worker. No. We are going to make sure that those workers have a transition, new jobs, healthcare, and education.
And look, Governor Bullock, your response?
And look, Bernie, I was a union side labor lawyer. I fought day after day. And I know, but we set this up as a false choice far too often. Are we going to actually address climate change? Fire seasons are 80 days longer in the West now. Or are we going to give people a better shot at a better life? You can do both, but let's actually have the scientists drive this. Let's not just talk about plans that are written for press releases, but we'll go nowhere else if we can't even get a Republican to acknowledge that the climate's changing.
So, again, that conversation was spurred by Governor Steve Bullock talking about the transition period and worrying about, the workers. I didn't like where he took it at the end and saying that drafting, policy, which is not a policy, the Green New Deal, but drafting that for press releases. The Green New Deal was not, created just for show. It wasn't created just for a press release, just to create attention. No, it was created because this is the way we need to go. Now, the particular ways that we need to go have yet to been agreed upon, like an actual policy with like points and like, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. That has not been drafted yet. But this is like the outline of what we need to do, like like the information, why we're doing this, and where we need to go. So Steve Bullock is acting like it was just like
and
it was
he's acting like
thing.
It hasn't been talked about.
Right. Before AOC actually even came out with it.
Before AOC came out with it.
It's ridiculous, man.
And it's not like there hasn't been conversations held, I guess, in official forums as well.
Right.
So he's making it sound like it was just released to the public through the media, and then that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's making it sound like that. Maybe he's just trying to kind of, I guess, diminish what's in it.
Right, no doubt.
As if it's worthless.
That's what he's doing.
But yeah, I mean, I understand people's concern with jobs, and I think sometimes that's the first thing they throw out. Just to seem sympathetic, but the reality is, as technology changes, jobs change. As we develop as a country and a society, as we use different products, as different products become obsolete, I think that's just a natural way of things.
Right.
Like we don't, like coal. We don't use this. We don't like coal plants are closing left and right. Why? Because coal is dirty and we don't use it, and we use fossil fuels. We use oil, like petroleum.
Yeah.
Natural gas, petroleum.
Nuclear.
Yeah, nuclear. So yeah, I mean, those jobs are being lost too.
Right.
So I mean, that's just the natural progression of a society, developing technology and moving on. I'm concerned with jobs too, but that's not my go-to.
Yeah, it's not the reason not to do anything.
It's not the reason not to do anything. It's the same argument people make about, not going to war. Well, what about the jobs?
All right, so continuing on, and we're not going to address every single thing that was talked about. Of course, we're time limited, but of course they did talk about crime. They talked about criminal justice reform. Buttigieg was pretty good on racial concerns. Klobuchar, usually Klobuchar, I've noticed too that on the issue of just racial concerns, she speaks very well about it. I mean, she, her ideas, and it's something where, I mean, if you're a Democrat, you shouldn't flub it. You really shouldn't flub it if you're a Democrat, but some do. But anyway, O'Rourke, Beto O'Rourke, he's the one that brought up reparations. He, his idea is about the commission, studying it, blah blah blah. But so actually, it's for the next 3 clips. Actually, we're going to be showing some Marianne Williamson clips, and it's not by design. Actually, a lot of these clips, they got just a lot of applause by the people that were in the audience as well. But here, Marianne Williamson is talking about Flint, because that is a subject that came up. They were in Detroit, Michigan for this debate, so they did talk about Flint, and there was a question about what's going to be done to make sure Flint doesn't happen again.
My response on the Flint water crisis is that Flint is just the tip of the iceberg. I was recently in Denmark, South Carolina, where there is a lot of talk about it being the next Flint. We have an administration that has gutted the Clean Water Act. We have communities, particularly communities of color and disadvantaged communities all over this country, who are suffering from environmental injustice. I assure you, I lived in Grosse Pointe. What happened in Flint would not have happened in Grosse Pointe. This is part of the dark underbelly of American society. The racism, the bigotry, and the entire conversation that we're having here tonight, if you think any of this wonkiness is going to deal with this dark psychic force of the collectivized hatred that this president is bringing up in this country, then I'm afraid that the Democrats are going to see some very dark days. We need to say it like it is. It's bigger than Flint. It's all over this country. It's particularly people of color. It's particularly people who do not have the money to fight back. And if the Democrats don't start saying it, then why would those people feel that they're there for us? And if those people don't feel it, they won't vote for us, and Donald Trump will win.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williamson.
Damn, yo.
Yo, after I think after that little rant right there, I had a friend send me a text. He was impressed too, and he said, "I want to fuck the spirituality out of Marianne Williamson."
Wow.
I was like, God dog, dude. But he was praising her after that. He was like, "I'm just playing, man."
For
like,
people that didn't understand that.
Yeah. She's like that right there is again another instance of Marianne Williamson shining like we know she can, and not kind of like taking like some sort of, I don't know, middle ground. Like, she feel like, again, that first question, it seems like she was forcing herself to a middle ground. Here, she took a topic and provided a little bit of historical analysis. And she not only provided some historical analysis, she expanded the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Because yes, the topic tends to be centered on Flint and their water crisis and water situation, which is still ongoing. But she was in our state, and we have kind of a similar situation.
Right.
Now, it hasn't like, been as like extensive. Hasn't been
magnified.
It's not as magnified. But yeah, there's definitely cities like in Alabama and Mississippi, and Louisiana and Kentucky that are going through similar things. And I'm glad, she called it environmental terrorism. It's a side conversation that shouldn't be a side conversation. It should be included in the conversation of climate change. So yeah, especially as it comes to underserved communities and people who have been historically disenfranchised, and how these situations not being addressed is affecting those communities first.
Yeah, I like her entire answer, and I like that she says, look, if Democrats aren't going to actually do something about this, or if they're not actually going to stand up for people and ensure that something like this does not ever happen again, why would people ever actually support them? So, like I said, I think it was a great answer. And like you heard, there was a round of applause, and that was just not the only time. So conversation got to the issue of, I think next we're going to reparations. Like I said, did get to reparations because O'Rourke had kind of brought that up. So we know that the strongest on this issue in this field of Democrats has been Marianne Williamson. She's the one with the clearest plan about reparations. So she was asked the question about that, and she explained.
Many of your opponents support a commission to study the issue of reparations for slavery. But you are calling for up to $500 billion in financial assistance. What makes you qualified to determine how much is owed in reparations?
Well, first of all, it's not $500 billion in financial assistance. It's $500 billion, $200 to $500 billion, payment of a debt that is owed. That is what reparations is. We need some deep truth-telling when it comes. We don't need another commission to look at evidence. I appreciate what Congressman O'Rourke has said. It is time for us to simply realize that this country will not heal. All that a country is a collection of people. People heal when there's some deep truth-telling. We need to recognize that when it comes to the economic gap between blacks and whites in America, it does come from a great injustice that has never been dealt with. That great injustice has had to do with the fact that there was 250 years of slavery, followed by another 100 years of domestic terrorism. What makes me qualified to say $200 to $500 billion? I'll tell you what makes me qualified. If you did the math of the 40 acres and a mule, given that there was 4 to 5 million slaves at the end of the Civil War, there were 4 to 5, and they were all promised 40 acres and a mule for every family of 4. If you did the math today, it would be trillions of dollars. And I believe that anything less than $100 billion is an insult. And I believe that $200 to $500 billion is politically feasible today because so many Americans realize there is an injustice that continues to form a toxicity underneath the surface, an emotional turbulence that only reparations.
Thank you very much.
Again, she's strong on she's strong on most issues. That one issue that we talked about earlier on healthcare, doesn't seem that she's too strong on that. But on other issues, she is right where anybody would want somebody that advocates for people to be. She describes it as hundreds of years of slavery, had 100 years of domestic terrorism after that. I like that she corrected Don Lemon, saying that it was not a payment, it's a debt that is owed. She just, like I said, she also says that, we need a lot of truth telling, and that's the only way that people are going to heal, when you actually tell the truth, and not just tell the truth, but you actually pay the debt that is owed. So, like I said, we've talked about this issue with Marianne Williamson before, with reparations. And when we've heard it the first time, it was so surprising that somebody would come out like this and so strong. And not just somebody, because we have heard many people that have said similar types of things, but a presidential candidate that we have not heard. And so I like that she was able to, because in the first debate, she was not able to expand on what she feels about reparations. But on this debate, she was actually asked the question.
And I think that's the key right there.
Even though it was with shade that she was asked the question.
Yeah, and like you said,
what qualifies you?
What qualifies
her is that she's telling the truth about it.
Exactly. It's not even about what qualifies her. It's just about her offering, like what you said, the truth.
Right.
And I can't remember what interview it was, but maybe it was the Breakfast Club, where she said it. Hey, first of all, it's not up to me.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, there's a dollar amount that I can estimate, but it won't be up to me on how that money is used and where it goes. You see what I'm saying? I'm not qualified to do that. So I don't even know where the questioning, I don't know where that kind of questioning came from.
It was a whack question.
But yeah, I'm glad that she was able to expand on the topic and give some historical references in order to kind of bring her point home, and I'm glad she characterized the situation that black people were living in the United States as domestic terrorism, and as she's called it, economic terrorism as well. And there's a reason why it's not defined like that. There is a reason why it's not defined like that, because who in their right mind, if you love this country unconditionally now, if you think this country is exceptional to every other country and the flaws are minimal and it has given opportunities to everyone equally, if you believe all that, why would you want to acknowledge the fact that an entire group of people were economically deprived for 300 plus years? Why would you want to acknowledge that? That's something that, is a hard pill to swallow.
Was not wicked in our origins.
Who was that about? What's his name?
That was John Kennedy.
That was John
Senator
Kennedy.
John Kennedy.
So basically, if you think that the United States began, in wicked origins, then you are un-American.
All right, so the conversation went to education, and of course, like I said, and all of this was wrapped around, fight these progressives off. Say something about these bad progressive policies. That's what CNN was trying to do. But anyway, we have Marianne Williamson yet again. She was talking about her idea about tuition-free colleges and universities.
Should the government pay for children from wealthier families to go to college?
I think that all domestic and international policy should be based on the idea that anything we do to help people thrive is a stimulation to our economy. That's how you stimulate your economy. So if a few people take advantage, but there are 4 or 5 people who are going to take the money that they then have in the bank. When you look at this $1.5 trillion college debt, this is why I agree with Bernie, or I would be, okay, why don't we swap it? We had a $2 trillion tax cut where 83 cents of every dollar goes to the very, very richest among us. That does not stimulate the economy. If we get rid of this college debt, think of all the young people who will have the discretionary spending. They'll be able to start their business. The best thing you could do to stimulate the U.S. economy is to get rid of this debt. This is not just about a plan to do it, it's about a philosophy of governing. And I've heard some people here tonight, I almost wonder why you're Democrats. You seem to think there's something wrong about using the instruments of government to help people. That is what government should do. All policies should help people thrive. That is how we will have peace, and that is how we will have prosperity.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Whoa. I didn't look. I didn't know what kind of weapon she came with. You know what I'm saying? I assumed she was going to come with one in her hip, maybe one in her hip,
right?
And maybe one in her ankle, maybe, and that's it. That's really all she was going to come with. But I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting her to have this huge, Gatling gun.
Because it wasn't obviously she has, she's a tiny frame. You don't see all these weapons.
No. Oh, she had clips. She had straps. She had them Rambo clips.
I love what she said.
She was pew pew pew. She was at everybody. Not
to quote her, but she was saying it's hard to believe that these people are Democrats. It's like they don't understand that using the government is something that we can do to benefit the lives of people.
That's what we're supposed to do.
That's what we're supposed to do. And we had so many people on that stage last night that looked like Republicans.
Sounded like Republicans.
Yes. And we said that, when we were watching the debate, probably had, I don't even know if it was halfway into it. It was just like, oh my gosh, is this like a mingled kind of is this a mixed debate with Republicans and Democrats on the stage? Because that's really what it sounded like. I'm glad that Marianne Williamson actually said it sounds like some of you are Republicans on the stage and you don't even understand what government can be used for. It was something, man. It was something. Like I said, that you heard that as well. That got a lot of applause.
Yo, I think,
She brought it, man.
She brought it. I think she had more of those moments than anybody else.
She did.
I think she had more of those moments than Bernie, too.
She did. She absolutely did.
I still think Bernie finished first.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
But it just seemed like she had more of those picture-perfect moments.
When she was talking about Flint, reparations, and when she talked about that right there, you could hear the audience cheer. And what can you say? What can you say?
There was a few times where me and Will were just on the edge of our seats because we knew where she took it the last debate.
Right.
When she was talking about love.
Yes, and we did not want to.
And we did not want her to say it. So if you saw us as we were watching, we were like, don't say it.
In the closing statement,
don't say it.
It
looked like she was leading up to it.
A few times it seemed like she was going to do it. And she did it, but the way she did it wasn't bad. The way she did it was not bad. Not at all.
I'm not sure.
It seemed to fit.
I'm not sure if it was the previous clip, but one of the clips we showed earlier in the show, she said something about psychic, and I was like, "Oh, she's about to go there." Psychic was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "Okay." Ooh, false alarm! False alarm! False alarm! Did anybody respond to like what she said?
Oh well, there was one Klobuchar, of course, and Klobuchar always. She said this at the last debate as well, and she doesn't want to provide tuition-free colleges and universities to the children of the wealthy. And that's where she always goes. She doesn't think that we should be paying for the wealthiest children in America to be going to school, for free. They should have to pay. Like, that's not the motivation. If we're going to implement tuition-free public colleges and universities, they are not the motivation, because mostly they're not going to take that opportunity. They're going to go to private colleges. But if they do take the opportunity, who the hell cares? It's not for them. That's not the reason behind doing something like this.
This will be positive for about 85% of the country, and that's who matters.
The people that actually need it.
Think about that. It would kind of make doing anything through the government, like for everybody.
Right. If the rich are going to benefit, we can't do it.
You can't do it. You can't. Hey, I know the infrastructure in this city is crumbling, and I know people are being affected by it. But we don't want to use the government to improve the infrastructure, to improve the roads, to improve anything.
Right.
Because, hey, the rich people are using the roads. The rich people are using the roads too, so we're not going to improve the roads.
All right, so we got a couple more clips. All right, 8 o'clock. We're going to finish this thing out strong. Next clip we got is Bernie Sanders talking about foreign policy.
If voters are hearing the same message from you and President Trump on the issue of military intervention, how should they expect that you will be any different from him?
Trump is a pathological liar. I tell the truth. We have been in Afghanistan, I think, 18 years, in Iraq, 16 or 17 years. We have spent $5 trillion on the war on terror, and there are probably more terrorists out there now than before it began. We're going to spend, the Congress passed, and I will not vote for, a $715 billion military budget, more than the 10 next countries combined. What we need is a foreign policy that focuses on diplomacy, ending conflicts by people sitting at a table, not by killing each other. As President of the United States, I will go to the United Nations and not denigrate it, not attack the UN, but bring countries together in the Middle East and all over the world to come to terms with their differences and solve those problems peacefully. The United States cannot be the policeman of the world.
Thank you.
So this was one of those
leading questions.
Yes, and you saw the lower third again. If you missed it, which you probably didn't, this is what it looked like. Senator Sanders, you and Trump has said the U.S. shouldn't be the policeman of the world. So how will your foreign policy differ? As if Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump view foreign policy in the same way. Yes.
And
good job, CNN.
Also, it kind of assumes that Donald Trump is telling the truth. It
Yes.
takes his word
Yep.
like at face value, even though we know that isn't true. That hasn't played out in his first 2 years. It's not like we don't have like some sort
We
of
don't have
track
a record.
record to look at.
Yes.
Because like if you're going to ask that question, he better like I guess with that question, he should at least give like one example and not some sort of
how
talking
they're the
point.
same.
Like how they're the same.
Yeah,
We shouldn't.
substantially.
We're not. The United States shouldn't police the world. Therefore, y'all are the same in regard to foreign policy.
So rhetorically, they're the same, but in substance, no.
Okay,
You can't provide an example.
I'll give one example. Yemen. What did Trump just do? Recently, I think it was last week, close to last week, or at the right end of last week. What did he just do?
Talking about vetoing?
Because we talk about Yemen.
Yeah, we talking veto the bill. There was an effort to ban the arms sales, right? Yeah.
Stop our involvement.
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, he banned that.
Because we're contributing to the human rights crisis over there
Right.
by getting involved in weapons deals with that country.
Yeah. They're not the same.
They're not the same.
Yeah.
What about Venezuela? Was he for a coup in Venezuela?
No, not Bernie Sanders.
What about North Korea? Does he agree with how Donald Trump is dealing with?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's 3 right there.
Yeah.
That's just 3.
But let's leave it there. Like I said, CNN had an objective here, and it was to hit at Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders, I think, was able to convey how that was disingenuous and how he is different from Trump because he tells the truth. Trump is a pathological liar. All right, so we got one more clip. This was interesting. This was a conversation that, or exchange that Senator Elizabeth Warren had with Governor Steve Bullock. It was about nuclear weapons.
I wouldn't want to take that off the table. I think America's strength, we have to be able to say that. Look, never, I hope, certainly in my term or anyone else, would we really even get close to pulling that trigger. But by the same token, America's strength, and look, this president's made America versus America alone. Our allies no longer trust us. Our adversaries are with us. But going from a position of strength, we should be negotiating down so there aren't nuclear weapons. But drawing those lines in the sand at this point, I wouldn't do.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Warren, your response?
Look, we don't expand trust around the world by saying, we might be the first ones to use a nuclear weapon. That puts the entire world at risk and puts us at risk right in the middle of this. At a time when Donald Trump is pulling out of our nuclear negotiations, expanding the opportunities for nuclear proliferation around the world, has pulled us out of the deal in Iran, and Iran is now working on its nuclear weapon. The world gets closer and closer to nuclear warfare. We have to have an announced policy that is one the entire world can live with. We need to make that clear. We will respond if
Senator
someone
Warren.
else does, but
Governor
not
Bullock,
first.
please respond.
Part I agree with. But by the same token, we need to get back to nuclear proliferation.
Why?
But when you have folks, proliferation, reducing them, but at the same time, when you actually have Korea, when you have others, I don't want to turn around and say, well, Detroit has to be gone before we would ever use that. When so many crazy folks are getting closer to having a nuclear weapon, I don't want them to think I could strike this country and I and we as the United States of America wouldn't do a thing. Part of the strength really is the ability to deter.
This is such a bad, horrible, inexcusable argument to make. He's saying that what if something happens to the United States? I want to have the option of using nuclear weapons. Like what happens? Like what if they attack Detroit? And another thing is that we're using it as a deterrent so that we are not attacked because they know we have nuclear weapons. It's such a horrible idea. Now there are 2 countries that I'm aware of that has a policy of no first use, and that's China and that's India. There are other countries, the United States included, that say that they're only going to use it as a defensive mechanism. But, it's left up to them to decide, okay, where it's appropriate. We feel like we're attacked. We feel like one of our allies is attacked. Oh, we think it's appropriate to use nuclear weapons now, which is a horrible policy.
Why is it horrible? Because like the usage of those weapons and what should justify the usage of those weapons is very vague and abstract.
Yes, exactly. And it's look, we've seen foreign policy decisions from the United States before. Do we trust that? Since we don't have a dictator as well, the office of presidency can shift, the Congress can shift in terms of ideology and strategy. So we should trust that we don't have a policy of no first use? No. We should have that policy. And also, his type of reasoning assumes that we don't have other mechanisms,
other types of weapons.
Yes,
that's the thing. Like, hey, like. I can't take that position. I can't take no first use position because we might be attacked. And I was like, you didn't even say, by nuclear weapons. You just said attacked.
Not by a nuclear weapon. Because no first use is if you're attacked by a nuclear weapon, then you would use the nuclear, or you could use the nuclear weapon. No, this is just simply attack given whatever other kind of weaponry. It's it's a horrible answer. It's a horrible answer, man.
And didn't he say something about like he didn't use the word kind of nuclear disarmament?
I don't think he's used those words. He didn't use those words. I don't believe.
Okay, I thought he said something about that. But usually when they do bring that up, they ain't talking about us.
Yeah,
talking about everybody else.
But look, that's really the last clip that we have. Actually, we have one more clip. It's only a few seconds long, but these are. I don't think I could pick which one was the lamest, the wackest, the most the line that just like gave you like a ugh. But there were at least two moments that kind of produced that kind of yuck feeling.
As an urban mayor serving a diverse community, the racial divide lives within me.
So in a few minutes, all of the pundits are going to be looking at this debate and saying, well, who captured the left lane and who captured the center lane and who captured the moderate lane? I hope tonight, at some level, I captured your imagination.
Boo.
Yeah.
Boo.
That GIF of Hannibal Buress?
Yes.
It says whack.
Yep.
That's exactly what was going through my head.
The racial divide lives in me.
In me.
That's ridiculous. That's stupid. And then, I hope I captured your imagination. You came to the debate with that line. He is the new, you got to include this comment. But with that and the whole new sticker, you don't have to yell, he is the new Representative Eric Swalwell. He has taken that place. Even though it was Steve Bullock that took his actual place on the debate stage, but in terms of who is
that was
the most corny.
That's one of those like a bold without the bull moments. That was one of those moments.
Yes, it was whack.
That was like a please clap moment too. I'm here to capture your imagination. It's almost very Bookerish too.
Yeah, it was whack. Man.
Very poetic and empty.
But all right, so but here are some of the other. You know what? This was another one where you could see what CNN was trying to do. Will Senator Sanders' immigration proposals encourage more undocumented immigrants to come to the United States? Again, it was wrapped around really trying to shit on Bernie Sanders and what he's trying to profess, what he's trying to implement in the United States of America. Like you said earlier too, I think it backfired. I think it gave Bernie Sanders the opportunity to shine and just be more of himself, which I don't think we saw in that first debate.
Yes. I think it was definitely a setup. All those questions were a setup to bash Bernie, and I agree with you. It backfired, and because by rule they have to give him a chance to respond.
And he did.
So they gave him the mic and they gave him a stage. Yeah. They gave him the platform.
Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? He capitalized.
To push his vision, push his vision right back in the face of a lot of figures and a lot of politicians on that stage who are just kind of corporate lackeys.
Right.
So yeah, maybe that little pregame with Cardi B worked.
Maybe so.
But one other thing, remember, like kind of our whole, I guess, characterization of this debate was a kind of a setup by CNN.
Right.
That was actually validated on the post-debate commentary.
That's right.
When Jake Tapper actually admitted that it was all a setup. He
And
basically.
why was it a setup? Why was it a setup? I couldn't find the clip, but we saw it live.
Oh my gosh! It blew my mind. So not only did he say all the questions were specifically set up, like in that fashion, and CNN set up all the graphics like they did strategically, but they did it because they thought that those were the type of questions that Joe Biden would present to Bernie Sanders.
So these other centrists that were on the stage,
conduits. They were conduits.
Exactly.
They
were stand-ins for Joe Biden. Yeah. Joe Biden would have elicited the same type of talking points.
And CNN facilitated this.
Yes. Which is wow. Wow that, look, it's wild that it happened, but it's wild that it was actually admitted to by Jake Tapper. Couldn't find the clip though. But anyway, like I said, I think Bernie Sanders came out ahead. I think he did win the debate. I think he had him and Elizabeth Warren talked the most. Elizabeth Warren was actually number one by a very slim margin. She talked for 17.9 minutes and Sanders 17.6 minutes. So
that's their fault.
Yeah.
That's their fault.
Look, Bernie Sanders came in very strong. I think it was a great performance. I think you really couldn't see his energy in that first debate, but it shined through on this on the second one. I think Elizabeth Warren performed very well as well. I think it could be considered a win. Marianne Williamson, you would have to say that she is a winner in this debate as well, because one, she had those moments where there was a lot of applause for what she had to say. During the debate, according to Google Trends, she was the most searched for candidate during that debate. In second place was Bernie Sanders, and in third was Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
So based on that, you can't tell how that translates into votes or support or anything like that. But I assume that she takes that as a good sign. The one problem we had, of course, was her. The first time she really spoke on the issue, and that being Medicare for all, she flubbed it, man. It wasn't a good response. But everything else was right on the money, really. So I think the centrists in this debate that really were elevated, but I don't think it's going to elevate them per se, but Steve Bullock got a lot of talking time. Delaney got a lot of talking time. Hickenlooper got a lot of talking time. Tim Ryan. These were the centrists that were, I guess, standing in for Joe Biden. And like you said, and like Joe Tapper said, they wanted to, I guess, create a situation where if Joe Biden was on stage, you still had something like his voice on the stage. So it was really disgusting and disappointing that you would try to elevate these voices when they have no chance in the world. They're not going to overtake a centrist like even Amy Klobuchar or Joe Biden. It's not going to happen. So, like I said, I don't think they come out ahead in this. I don't think Steve Bullock is going to show up for the next debate, which is the third debate. I don't think he's going to qualify for that. A lot of these centrists are not going to qualify.
I don't think so. To me, it was just Bernie Sanders won. Maybe Warren and Williamson 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Buttigieg and O'Rourke 4 and 5. 6 through 10 was uninspiring.
See, now the middle part that you're talking about, Buttigieg and O'Rourke, I think those are the people that got lost.
They got lost because it was like, 6 through 10.
Yeah.
Like stole the show in a bad way.
They stole the show for that centrist point of view.
Point of view.
But on the progressive side, it was definitely Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Marianne Williamson.
And they stood out, like pretty much.
So if you're in the middle, you're lost.
You're just as bad as 6 through 10.
Right.
Like to me, it was just 1 through 3. It was just 1 through 3. Everybody else was just cold, unseasoned mashed potatoes.
Yep, I agree. So really, that's what we have for you tonight. I know the debate is already started. Opening statements are underway. I believe it's who is that? Yeah, Jay Inslee that's talking right now. I think we got to everything that we want to talk about. There was one thing that after the debate, I can't remember his name on CNN.
Van Jones.
Oh
God.
He had a line. He
totally
said,
forgot about this, bro.
He said Bernie Sanders is trying to lead the revolution, but Elizabeth Warren is trying to lead the country. Which I wish I could have gotten that statement. I couldn't find it anywhere, but we definitely heard it. It makes no sense to me. Because if you have heard Van Jones talk before, you've heard him even recently. You've heard Van Jones say that Bernie Sanders has pushed the Democratic Party left. All these candidates, all these progressive candidates, or at least trying to be progressive candidates, they're imitating Bernie Sanders. If they're doing, I don't know if he makes the distinction if they're doing it falsely or not, but still,
it doesn't matter. His talking points.
Yeah, his talking points are driving the narrative, especially in 2019 going into 2020. So for him to say that Bernie Sanders is I guess only suited to run the revolution but not the country makes no damn sense. He feels so strongly about Warren leading the country but not Bernie Sanders.
That makes no sense. If you kind of define Bernie as a revolutionary, you can't like put a limit on that,
right? Or
a limit on like how far that can go, or how much that qualifies him or disqualifies him. It doesn't make sense. I mean, that's like saying, hey, the Lakers, I know you won the Western Conference. You won the Western Conference Finals, but we're going to choose the team you beat or some other team to go to the finals because we think that they can lead the Western Conference, even though you won and you lead. That would make no sense. So if they lead their conference, that means they're capable of winning the overall championship. So,
yeah, his point was ridiculous. I think it falls flat on his face. But anyway, we're going to stop it here, and we're going to cut this off. We're going to be back tomorrow night, same time at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with some more analysis from tonight's debate. So we thank everybody that came along the way for tonight's analysis, for tonight's coverage. No super chat. Yeah, we forgot to mention the super chat last night, but we put some messages in. But everybody, like I said, we're glad that you were here with us tonight. We're gonna let you go watch the debate. We're gonna do the same, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. All right, so everybody take care. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, peace out. Thank you.